Mrs. Thompson? This is Sandra from Child Protective Services. We've received some concerning reports about your children's welfare. I gripped my phone tighter, my legal training kicking in as I processed those words. Through my office window, I could see my twins, Alex and Sophie, playing in the courthouse daycare center where I'd dropped them off before court this morning. I see, I said, keeping my voice steady. And what exactly are these concerns? The reporter claims you're denying your children basic necessities and opportunities for financial advancement. They've provided documentation suggesting you're preventing the children from pursuing modeling careers that could support their education. My sister Emma. It had to be. She'd been harassing me for weeks about using the twins in her struggling clothing brand's advertisements. For exposure. And family loyalty, of course. No actual payment involved. I understand, I replied, already pulling up my recorder app. I'd be happy to meet with you and address these concerns. Would you like to do this at my office? I'm actually at the courthouse right now. The courthouse? Sandra sounded surprised. Yes, I'm a family law attorney. I specialize in child advocacy cases. There was a pause. Clearly, this detail hadn't been in my sister's report. I see, Sandra said slowly. That's interesting. The reporter indicated you were unemployed and dependent on family charity. I almost laughed. Emma had never bothered to learn what I actually did after law school. In her mind, I'd failed by not joining our parents' business empire. I can provide full documentation of my employment, income, and the twins' standard of living, I said, including their college funds, health insurance, and educational expenses. Would you like to meet this afternoon? We set up a meeting for 3 p.m. As soon as I hung up. I called my colleague in the DA's office. Hey, Mark. Remember that conversation about my sister's business practices? I think it's time to pull those files. 2 hours later, I sat across from Sandra in my office, a thick folder of documents between us. The twins were still happily playing downstairs, unaware of their aunt's latest attempt to control our lives. First, I said, I want to show you these text messages and emails from my sister. I spread out the printed conversations, highlighted and annotated with dates and contexts. Emma's escalating demands about using the twins as models, her threats when I refused, her attempts to contact their school and activities directly when I blocked her number. 2 weeks ago, I continued. She showed up at their soccer practice claiming to be their legal guardian. That triggered the cease and desist letter. Sandra reviewed the documents, her professional mask slipping slightly as she read Emma's increasingly unhinged messages. She seems very focused on using your children for her business, Sandra observed. Yes, and there's more. I pulled out another file. These are complaints filed against her company for labor violations involving underage models. My office has been building a case. Sandra's eyebrows rose. You're investigating your own sister? I'm protecting children from exploitation, I corrected. The fact that she's my sister doesn't change that. I showed her photos of my home, the twins' school records, their medical documents, everything proving we lived comfortably and safely, far from the desperate poverty Emma had claimed. There's something else you should hear, I said, pulling up an audio file on my phone. This is from last week when she came to my house. Emma's voice filled the room. You're just jealous of my success. Those kids could be making real money instead of living in this tiny house with your pathetic government job. Mom and Dad agree. You're wasting their potential. Either sign the modeling contract, or I'll make sure everyone knows what a terrible mother you are. Your sister, Sandra said carefully, seems to have some unrealistic expectations. She's never accepted that I chose a different path, I explained. Our family runs several businesses. They believe anything else is failure. When I became a lawyer instead of joining them, I became the cautionary tale. And now she's using CPS as a weapon because you won't exploit your children for her benefit. Exactly. I leaned forward. I've spent my career protecting children from people like my sister. I know every law she's breaking. I just never thought she'd go this far. Sandra closed her notebook. Mrs. Thompson, I'll be direct. There's no case here. Your children are clearly well cared for, and this report appears to be retaliation. However, you're wondering about my sister's business practices. These labor violations, they're serious. I nodded, pulling out one final document. This is why I've been gathering evidence. It's not just about my twins anymore. She's been using underage models without permits, proper compensation, or educational accommodations, some as young as 4. I'll need copies of everything, Sandra said. Already prepared. I handed her a USB drive. The DA's office will be very interested in your report as supporting documentation. As Sandra left, I went down to the daycare center. Alex and Sophie ran to hug me, chattering about their day. I held them tight, remembering Emma's words about wasting their potential. My phone buzzed, a text from Emma. Hope you enjoyed your visit from CPS. Ready to be reasonable about the modeling contract. I smiled, typing back. Actually, you should expect some visitors of your own. The Labor Board and DA's office have some questions about your business practices. Then I turned off my phone and took my kids for ice cream. Let Emma deal with the consequences of her actions. I had a family to protect. The storm broke faster than even I expected. Within 48 hours of my meeting with CPS, Emma's carefully curated world began to unravel. I was in court when my parents called. 15 missed calls and countless messages, all variations of how could you do this to your sister. Not one asking how their grandchildren were doing after being reported to Child Protective Services. The DA's office moved quickly, armed with my documentation. Emma's family-focused fashion brand had been cutting corners since day one. No work permits for child models, no mandatory tutors or break times, and no trust accounts for the children's earnings. Your sister's looking at serious charges, Mark told me over coffee. The parents of her previous models are coming forward. Some kids worked 12-hour days without breaks. My phone buzzed again. Emma's lawyer this time. We can make this go away. The message read, just withdraw your evidence and sign the modeling contract. I forwarded the message to Mark. Add witness tampering to the list. That evening, my parents showed up unannounced. I watched through the security camera as they stood on my porch. My father in his expensive suit, my mother clutching her designer handbag. The twins are at Karate, I said through the intercom. And unless you have a lawyer present, we have nothing to discuss. Diana. My father's authoritative voice crackled through the speaker. Don't destroy your sister's life over a simple misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I pressed the camera's record button, like falsely reporting me to CPS, or trying to gain illegal custody of my children. She was trying to help. My mother interjected. Those children could have a real future in modeling. Instead, you keep them locked away in this ordinary life. I thought about Alex's science fair project on his desk upstairs, Sophie's half-finished painting in the art room, their laughter during soccer practice, their excitement over new books. My children are happy, healthy, and safe, I said. That's not ordinary, it's extraordinary. And I won't let anyone exploit them, not even family. We'll contest your custody, my father threatened. Your sister told us about your difficult behavior. Really? I kept my voice calm. Please, do try. I'd love to present evidence of attempted custodial interference, witness tampering, and child labor violations in family court. I'm sure the judge would be fascinated. They left, but I knew this wasn't over. Emma had always been their golden child, the one who followed their business-first mentality. I was the disappointment who chose public service over profit. The next day, Emma's story hit the local news. Rising fashion brand under investigation for child labor violations. Her perfectly filtered Instagram presence shattered as former models' parents shared their stories. She showed up at my office, mascara streaking her face. You have to help me. They're destroying everything I built. You did that yourself, I replied, pressing record on my phone. When you decided exploiting children was acceptable business practice. They were paid in exposure. Their parents agreed. Those contracts wouldn't hold up in traffic court, let alone a labor dispute. And trying to force my children into it. Reporting me to CPS as revenge. I was trying to help them have a better life. I pulled up photos on my computer. Alex winning his science competition, Sophie's art show ribbon, both of them beaming after their first karate tournament. They already have a wonderful life, I said, one that doesn't require selling their childhood to your brand. Mom and Dad will never forgive you for this, she threatened. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm demanding justice. After she left, I called my lawyer. Within hours, we had a restraining order preventing Emma or my parents from contacting the twins' school or activities. The investigation expanded. More parents came forward with similar stories of pressure and manipulation. Emma's family-focused brand had been built on exploiting family connections and guilt-tripping parents into free child labor. My phone rang again, a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Thompson? This is Rebecca Wilson. My daughter Lily modeled for your sister 2 years ago. By the end of the week, we had 20 families joining the complaint. Emma's carefully constructed empire was collapsing, built as it was on violated regulations and exploited children. That weekend, I took the twins to the park. As they played on the swings, I thought about Emma's words about a better life. She'd never understood that success isn't measured in Instagram followers or brand deals. Mom, Sophie called. Watch this. I watched my daughter soar on the swing, her face pure joy. No cameras or contracts required. Alex was teaching another kid his latest karate move, both of them laughing. My phone buzzed with another message from my parents' lawyer. I deleted it without reading. Some family ties, I'd learned, needed to be severed to protect the next generation. And as I watched my children play, free from the weight of family expectations and exploitation, I knew I'd made the right choice. The courthouse hallway buzzed with tension as families gathered for Emma's preliminary hearing. Former child models and their parents filled the benches, each with their own story of manipulation and exploitation. My parents sat in the front row, still refusing to meet my eyes. Emma's perfectly curated image had crumbled. She sat beside her lawyer, her designer outfit replaced with something more appropriately subdued, her usual social media-ready makeup absent. She looked smaller somehow, more like the sister I remember from childhood, before our parents' ambitions consumed her. The state calls Diana Thompson, the prosecutor announced. As I took the stand, I felt every eye in the courtroom. The twins were safely at school, protected from this final act of our family drama. I had explained to them, in age-appropriate terms, why they wouldn't be seeing their aunt or grandparents for a while. Please describe your sister's business practices regarding child models, the prosecutor requested. For the next hour, I laid out everything: the missing work permits, the excessive hours, the contracts that violated labor laws, the way she had used family connections to pressure parents, promising fame and fortune while delivering only exhaustion and exploitation. And when you refused to let your children participate, she reported me to Child Protective Services. I stated clearly. She claimed I was denying my children opportunities and living in poverty. When that failed, she attempted to gain unauthorized access to their school and activities. Emma's lawyer tried to paint it as a family misunderstanding, a well-intentioned sister trying to help. But the evidence was overwhelming. Text messages, emails, voice recordings, and the testimonies of other parents. During the recess, my mother approached me. "It's not too late," she whispered. "We can still fix this as a family." "No, Mom," I replied. "We can't fix this. We can only make sure it never happens to another child." "You're choosing strangers over your own sister." "I'm choosing what's right over what's easy. Something you and Dad never taught us to do." The judge's decision was swift and decisive. Emma's case would proceed to trial. Her assets were frozen. A wider investigation into our parents' business practices was recommended, given their involvement in the scheme. As we left the courthouse, a young girl approached me, one of Emma's former models, now 13. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for making it stop." Her mother joined us, tears in her eyes. We felt so pressured, so guilty for wanting to quit. She made us feel like we were ruining our daughter's future. "Your daughter's future is her own to choose," I replied, watching them walk away together. That evening, I sat with the twins in our backyard treehouse, their favorite spot for serious conversations. "Mom," Alex asked, "is Aunt Emma in trouble because of us?" "No, sweetheart. She's in trouble because of her own choices. Sometimes grown-ups make wrong decisions, and they have to face the consequences." "Like when I took Sophie's art supplies without asking?" he questioned. "Similar, but bigger. Aunt Emma didn't respect other people's rights and choices." Sophie looked up from her drawing. "Is that why Grandma and Grandpa are mad at you? Because you stopped her?" "Sometimes doing the right thing means some people will be angry with us," I explained. "But that doesn't make it any less right." We had pizza in the treehouse, watching the sunset. My phone buzzed with messages I ignored. Tomorrow would bring more challenges: the trial preparations, the media inquiries, the family fallout. But tonight was for my children, for reinforcing that their worth wasn't measured in Instagram likes or brand deals. Later, after they were asleep, I found a drawing Sophie had made. Our family, just the three of us, standing together, smiling. She had written my real family across the top. My phone lit up with a text from Emma. I never meant for any of this to happen. For the first time, I believed her. She had been following our parents' playbook, pursuing success the only way they had taught us to recognize it. But understanding didn't equal excusing. I replied simply, "I know, but it did happen. And now we all have to live with those choices." Then I turned off my phone and went to check on my sleeping children. Alex had his science books spread across his bed, having snuck in some extra reading after lights out. Sophie's new painting hung drying by her window. No filters or sponsors required. This was success, not the kind that could be measured in followers or profit margins, but in moments, choices, and the courage to stand up for what's right, even when it costs you everything you thought was family. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but tonight, In a house filled with children's dreams instead of business plans, I knew we had already won the most important battle. A year passed. Emma's trial ended with a plea deal, community service, fines, and a ban from any business involving minors. Our parents' broader business practices came under scrutiny, revealing a pattern of exploitation that went beyond just Emma's brand. The twins thrived, free from the pressure of a forced spotlight. Alex won the state science fair with his project on sustainable energy. Sophie's art was displayed in a real gallery, not because of family connections, but because of raw talent and hard work. I kept the newspaper clipping from Emma's sentencing day, not out of spite, but as a reminder. The headline read, "Former child fashion mogul ordered to create programs protecting young models." Sometimes, justice had a sense of irony. One quiet Sunday morning, as I graded the twins' homework, they had insisted on extra math practice. My doorbell rang. Emma stood there, looking different. Gone was the perfectly curated Instagram aesthetic, replaced by simple jeans and a sweater. "I've been in therapy," she said without preamble, learning about generational trauma and toxic success metrics. I didn't invite her in, but I didn't close the door either. "The counselor helped me understand what Mom and Dad did to us," she continued. "How they turned everything into a transaction, even childhood. Including your business," I added quietly. "Especially that." She shifted uncomfortably. "I'm working with child labor advocacy groups now, as part of my community service, teaching parents and kids about their rights, warning signs of exploitation." From inside, I heard the twins laughing over their breakfast. Emma heard it too, her eyes filling with tears. "I miss them," she whispered. "They're happy," I said. Really, genuinely happy. Not Instagram perfect happy. "I know. I see their school pictures sometimes. They look free." We stood in silence for a moment, the weight of the past year between us. "I can't let you back into their lives yet," I said finally. "They need to grow up without that pressure." "I understand." She handed me an envelope. "But when they're older, maybe they'll want to read this. It's my apology, and my promise to do better." After she left, I watched the twins through the kitchen window. They were planning their next project, something about combining Sophie's art with Alex's environmental science. Their faces glowed with enthusiasm, no cameras or contracts required. My phone buzzed, a message from Mom. They were selling the family business empire, retiring early. "We've learned some hard lessons," she wrote. "Too late for you and Emma. Perhaps, but maybe not too late for the grandchildren." That evening, I showed the twins Emma's letter, letting them decide if they wanted to read it. They did together, sitting in their treehouse sanctuary. "She seems sad," Sophie observed. "And sorry," Alex added. "Really sorry." "Sometimes," I told them, "growing up means learning from mistakes. Even grown-ups have to learn sometimes." That night, I added a new photo to our family wall. Not a professional shot, but a candid moment captured at Alex's science fair. The twins were laughing, covered in project debris, absolutely perfect in their imperfection. Emma's letter joined my case files, a reminder that change was possible, that patterns could be broken. The twins continued to grow, pursue their passions, and develop into their own people. Not brand ambassadors, not social media stars, just wonderfully, ordinarily extraordinary children. And in the end, that was the greatest success story of all.